I was lying on a beach in Maui, the sound of waves crashing against the shore, when my phone started vibrating like crazy. 17 missed calls from Emily, 23 text messages. The last one made my blood run cold. "Sarah, what did you do? They're throwing us out. There are security guards here. Please call me back." I took a long sip of my Mai Tai, turned my phone face down on the lounger, and smiled for the first time in 3 months. You see, what Emily didn't know was that the house she thought she'd con me out of, the house she and her scumbag boyfriend Brad were probably getting escorted out of right now, wasn't mine anymore. I'd sold it 3 days ago for $1.8 million cash. But before you judge me, before you think I'm some heartless monster who threw her baby sister out on the street, let me take you back to where this nightmare really began. If you want to hear how a doormat finally stood up and fought back, hit that like button and subscribe, because this story is wild. Drop a comment and tell me what you would have done in my situation. Let me start by telling you about my relationship with Emily before everything went to hell. We weren't always like this. When we were kids, I was the stereotypical protective older sister. I was 7 years older than her, so by the time she was old enough to really remember our childhood, I was already the responsible teenager, helping Mom with dinner and making sure Emily did her homework. Our parents worked hard. Dad was a small business owner who ran a hardware store, and Mom was a nurse who worked night shifts. They were good people, loving people, but they were stretched thin, trying to make ends meet. I graduated high school with a full scholarship to State University. I studied computer science, worked 3 part-time jobs, and graduated with honors. By the time I was 25, I was working for a major tech company in Seattle with a 6-figure salary. I bought my first condo at 26. Emily was 19, then still living at home, bouncing between community college classes she never finished, and retail jobs she'd quit after a few months. Our parents died when I was 28, and Emily was 21. It was sudden, a drunk driver on Highway 5 coming back from visiting our aunt in Portland. One moment they were here, the next, they were gone, and Emily and I only had each other. At the funeral, Mom's sister pulled me aside and reminded me of something Mom had told her, that she worried about Emily, that Emily needed guidance, needed someone to believe in her, needed someone to help her find her way. I took that to heart. Maybe too much to heart. After the funeral, after we'd sorted through the estate, which wasn't much, besides the house they'd been paying off for 20 years, I sold it and split the money with Emily. Her half was about $60,000. My half went into a down payment for the house. The one I'd just sold, the one that Emily was probably being dragged out of right now by security guards. Emily burned through her $60,000 in less than a year. New car, new wardrobe, trips to Vegas with friends, lending money to boyfriends who never paid her back. When she called me crying because she couldn't make rent, I sent her money. When she totaled the car, I co-signed for a new one. When she got evicted, I paid her deposit and first month's rent at a new place. This pattern continued for years. I kept thinking that eventually Emily would figure it out. She'd mature, she'd get serious about her life, she'd stop making the same mistakes. I kept helping because that's what big sisters do. That's what Mom would have wanted. And honestly, part of me felt guilty that I'd been so successful while Emily struggled. Like somehow I'd gotten all the luck and the least I could do was share it. 3 months before everything exploded, Emily called me on a Tuesday night. I was working late, finishing up a presentation for the executive team, stress-eating Chinese takeout at my desk at home. My house was beautiful, a 4-bedroom, craftsman-style home in a nice neighborhood north of Seattle. I'd spent 2 years renovating it exactly how I wanted it. Every detail was chosen carefully. The antique light fixtures I'd found at estate sales, the built-in bookshelves I'd had custom made, the garden I'd planted myself, spending weekends on my knees in the dirt. "Sarah, I need help." Emily's voice was small, younger than her 27 years. I sighed, already reaching for my wallet. "How much?" "It's not money this time." "Well, it kind of is, but not like that. My roommate Jess is moving out. Her boyfriend proposed and they're getting a place together, and I can't afford the rent by myself. The landlord said I have until the end of the month to either find a new roommate or move out." "That's 3 weeks away, Em. You should start looking for roommates or a cheaper place." "I've been looking, but Sarah, the market is insane right now. Studios are going for $1,500 a month. I'm barely making enough at the coffee shop to cover that, let alone food and my car payment." She paused. "I was wondering if maybe I could crash with you for a couple weeks, just until I figure something out." I should have said no. Every instinct in my body was screaming at me to say no. But it was late, I was tired, and she was my sister. My only family. 2 weeks wouldn't kill me. 2 weeks, I said firmly. You can use the guest room, but Emily, I'm serious, you need to actively look for a place. I need my space. Oh my God, thank you so much, I promise 2 weeks tops. You won't even know I'm there. She moved in that Saturday. I helped her move her stuff, which was mostly clothes, some kitchen items, and a disturbing amount of makeup and hair products. She'd left most of her furniture for Jess, since Jess was staying in the apartment. I cleared out the guest room closet for her, showed her how to use the coffee maker, gave her a key, and went over the house rules. No parties, no smoking, clean up after yourself, and absolutely do not go into my home office, where I kept my work computer and my parents' belongings that I hadn't yet had the emotional strength to sort through. The first week was fine. Emily was working evening shifts at the coffee shop, so we barely saw each other. I'd come home from work, she'd already be gone. She'd get home late, I'd already be asleep. On her days off, she'd stay in the guest room watching Netflix. It was like having a very quiet, very low-maintenance houseplant. Week 2. Things started to shift. Emily brought Brad home. I came back from a grocery run to find them making out on my couch, some action movie playing loudly on my TV. Brad was exactly the type of guy I'd expected. Mid-20s, overly confident smile, wearing a gaming headset around his neck like jewelry. He worked in food delivery, he told me, but his real passion was streaming. He was building his following, he just needed the right setup, and he'd blow up, he was sure of it. Cool house, he said, looking around like he was appraising it. Must have cost you a fortune. I've done well for myself, I said neutrally, immediately uncomfortable with how his eyes cataloged everything. The expensive espresso machine on the counter, the original artwork on the walls, the high-end electronics. Em says you're some kind of tech genius. I'm a senior project manager, not exactly a genius, I just work hard. He smirked like he didn't believe me, like he thought I'd just gotten lucky that success was random and not the result of years of 80-hour weeks and constant self-improvement. After that, Brad was around more and more. At first, it was just evenings. He'd come over to after his delivery shift and they'd hang out in the living room. I didn't mind too much, though. I started staying upstairs in my bedroom more, giving them space. Then he started showing up earlier. Then he started being there when I left for work in the morning, clearly having spent the night, despite my no overnight guests rule that Emily had apparently decided didn't apply to her. Em, we need to talk, I said one morning, catching her in the kitchen. Brad was in the shower. I could hear the water running, my water in my house. What's up? She was making breakfast using the last of my eggs without asking. Brad's been staying over a lot. That wasn't part of our agreement. Oh, come on, Sarah. It's been like 3 times. Don't be such a hard-ass about it. 3 times this week, Emily. And we're only on Wednesday. Plus, you've been here for 3 weeks now. We said 2. Her face fell, and I felt that familiar guilt creeping in. I've been looking, I swear, but everything's so expensive. I'm trying to save up for a deposit, but it's hard on my salary. Maybe you should look for a better paying job. I'm trying. God, you make it sound so easy. Not all of us got lucky with some cushy tech job, Sarah. Some of us have to actually struggle. Lucky, that word again. Like my degree and experience and years of networking didn't matter. Like I just won the lottery instead of building a career. I'll give you 2 more weeks, I heard myself say. But Brad needs to not be here so much. This is my space, Em. I need boundaries. Fine, whatever. Thanks for being so generous. Her tone was acid. Brad came down a few minutes later, hair wet, wearing my towel. Hey, Sarah, mind if I make some coffee? Help yourself. I grabbed my laptop bag and left for work, trying to ignore the feeling that I'd just lost some important battle I didn't even know I was fighting. Week 4 turned into week 5. Week 5 turned into 6. Emily was always on the verge of finding a place. She'd almost secured an apartment, but then the landlord went with someone else. She'd found a roommate, but they backed out. She'd been promised more hours at work, but they fell through. There was always something. And I let it slide because confronting her meant fighting, and fighting meant being the bad guy. And I was so tired of being the bad guy. Brad's presence escalated from annoying to invasive. He started leaving his stuff around. His shoes by the door, his jacket on the coat rack, his energy drinks taking up half the fridge. He'd play video games in the living room with the volume up loud, shouting into his headset while I was trying to work from home. When I'd ask him to keep it down, he'd look annoyed like I was the one being unreasonable in my own house. Then Emily started redecorating. She moved my throw pillows off the couch because they didn't match her aesthetic, and replaced them with sequined ones from Target. She bought a huge artificial plant for the corner of the living room without asking. She rearranged the coffee table books, Small things, but each one felt like a tiny invasion, a small claim of ownership. "I'm just trying to make it feel more homey," she said when I mentioned it. "The place is beautiful, Sarah, but it's kinda cold, you know? Too minimalist. You need some life in here." I'd spent months choosing every item in this house. It wasn't cold, it was curated. It was mine. The breaking point started with a business trip. My company was sending me to a tech conference in Seattle, a 3-day event Wednesday through Friday. I'd be staying at the conference hotel downtown, which seemed silly since I lived 30 minutes away, but it was easier than dealing with rush hour traffic every morning. I told Emily I'd be gone, reminded her to water my plants, and left Wednesday morning. The conference was exhausting but productive. Long days of presentations, networking events, panel discussions. I was representing our department, trying to make connections, trying to stay sharp. Thursday night, I had dinner with a potential client that ran late. I got back to my hotel room around midnight, exhausted, and collapsed into bed. Friday morning, I woke up to an email. The client I'd met with last night wanted to move up our next meeting. Could I come to their office today at 2? It was a huge opportunity, exactly the kind of breakthrough my team had been working toward. I immediately said yes, rearranged my conference schedule, and made it work. The meeting went incredibly well. By 4 p.m., we'd outlined a preliminary agreement worth potentially millions to the company. I was high on adrenaline, already composing the email to my boss in my head. I decided to skip the conference's closing reception and just head home. I could celebrate with a nice glass of wine, a hot bath, and maybe I'd finally organize that closet I'd been putting off. I drove home in the early evening rush hour. Not too bad going north out of the city. The sun was setting, painting the sky those shades of pink and orange that made the Pacific Northwest feel magical. I pulled into my driveway around 6:30, already thinking about whether I had the ingredients for pasta or if I should order something. That's when I noticed the cars. There were at least 5 vehicles parked on the street in front of my house, and 2 more in my driveway. One of them was blocking my garage. I felt that first prickle of unease as I parked on the street and grabbed my laptop bag. I walked up to my front door and tried my key. The electronic lock beeped, but the little light flashed red. I tried again, read again. I tried my code. Nothing. The lock had been changed. My heart started pounding. Had I been robbed? Should I call the police? Then I heard it. Music. Bass-heavy music thumping from inside my house. Voices. Laughter. Lots of laughter. I walked around to the side of the house and looked through the living room window. What I saw made my blood pressure spike so fast I thought I might have a stroke right there in my own flower bed. My house was packed with people. At least 20, maybe 30 people, most of whom I'd never seen before. Red Solo cups everywhere, the telltale sign of a party. Someone had pushed all my furniture against the walls to make a dance floor. My carefully chosen throw pillows were scattered on the floor, some with visible beer stains. My antique coffee table had been moved entirely, shoved into the corner where someone had dumped their coat on it. And in the middle of it all, dancing with a drink in her hand, was Emily. Brad had his arms around her waist. They were grinding against each other while their friends cheered them on. I could see into the kitchen from this angle. My kitchen counters were covered in bottles, pizza boxes, someone's vape pen. The sink was full of dishes. Someone appeared to have spilled red wine down the front of my white cabinets. I started banging on the door, pounding on it with my fist. It took 5 solid minutes of continuous banging before Brad finally opened it. He had a beer in one hand, his phone in the other, and he looked annoyed that I'd interrupted his party. Not embarrassed, not apologetic, annoyed. "Sarah, hey, Emily said you weren't coming back until Sunday. The conference ended early. What the hell is going on, Brad? Why are all these people in my house? Why doesn't my key work?" "Oh yeah, I changed the locks. For security, you know. Emily gave me permission. Hang on, let me get her." He turned and yelled over the music, "Babe, your sister's here." He hadn't moved out of the doorway. I had to physically push past him to get into my own house. The smell hit me immediately, that particular combination of beer, sweat weed, and too many people in an enclosed space. My beautiful hardwood floors were sticky. There were footprints on my cream-colored couch. Someone had knocked over one of my potted plants and just left it there, dirt spreading across the rug. Emily came bouncing over, clearly drunk, and threw her arms around me. "Sissy, you're home. This is so great. Now you can party with us." "Emily, what the hell is this? Why are all these people here?" "We're just having a little get-together. Brad and I wanted to celebrate. We're celebrating our 6-week anniversary." 6 weeks. The amount of time Emily had been temporarily staying at my house. She was celebrating it like an achievement, like she'd accomplished something. Everyone needs to leave. Now. What? No, Sarah, don't be like that. We're just having fun. You're always so serious. Loosen up. This is my house, Emily. My house. These people need to leave right now. Brad appeared next to Emily, putting his arm around her shoulders in a possessive gesture that made my skin crawl. Sarah, come on, don't be such a buzzkill. Emily's been telling everyone about her amazing sister who has this incredible house. Everyone's been so excited to see it. You're kind of embarrassing her right now. I was embarrassing her, in my own house. At a party I hadn't approved. With locks I couldn't open. I don't care. Everyone out now or I'm calling the police. That got people's attention. The music was still playing, but conversation stopped. People started looking at each other, sensing trouble. You're going to call the cops on your own sister. Brad's voice was loud enough for everyone to hear. That's cold, Sarah. That's really cold. Everyone out. I walked over and unplugged the speaker. The sudden silence was jarring. Party's over. If you're not gone in 10 minutes, I'm calling the police. There was grumbling, lots of grumbling. People started gathering their things, slowly shooting me dirty looks like I was the problem, like I was the unreasonable one. I stood by the door, arms crossed, watching them file out. Emily was crying big dramatic sobs while Brad comforted her, both of them giving me wounded looks. It took 30 minutes to clear everyone out. Some people moved slower than others, making a show of how inconvenienced they were. One guy made a comment under his breath about rich people that I pretended not to hear. Finally, mercifully, the last person left. I closed the door and locked it, then turned to face Emily and Brad, who were sitting on my couch looking at me like I'd just slaughtered their puppy. What the hell was that, Emily? What was what? We were just having some friends over. Some friends. I counted at least 30 people. You changed my locks. You threw a massive party in my house without asking me. Do you see the damage? There's wine on my cabinets, dirt on my carpet stains, on my furniture. God, Sarah, it's just stuff. We'll clean it up. You're acting like we burned the place down. You changed my locks. My voice was rising despite my best efforts to stay calm. You locked me out of my own house. For security, Brad interjected. This is a nice neighborhood, but you can never be too careful. Emily told me you're gone a lot for work. We were just trying to protect your investment. By throwing a party, by living here, by having a presence. Empty houses get broken into, Sarah. You should be thanking us. I couldn't believe what I was hearing, the sheer audacity of it. I took a deep breath, trying to find my center, trying not to completely lose it. We'll talk about this tomorrow, when everyone's sober. But Brad, you need to go home, now. Actually, Sarah, Brad has been staying here. He moved in last week. Emily's voice was defiant now. The crying act dropped. He what? He moved in. He was having problems with his roommates, and since I'm here anyway, it made sense. You have all this extra space. Emily, we talked about this. This was supposed to be temporary. You were supposed to find your own place. I've been looking, but everything's so expensive, and you have this huge house with empty bedrooms, and I don't see why it's such a big deal. It's a big deal because it's my house, my space. I didn't agree to have both of you living here indefinitely. See, that's your problem, Sarah. You're so selfish. You have all this, and you can't even share it with your own sister, with your own family. Emily's voice had turned cold, now calculated. Mom and Dad would be so disappointed in you. There it was, the trump card. The guilt button she knew exactly how to push. That's not fair, Em. Isn't it? They always said family comes first. They always said we should take care of each other. But I guess now that you're successful and I'm struggling, that doesn't matter anymore. I guess you got yours and screw everyone else. I felt tears burning in my eyes. Not from sadness, from frustration, from rage. From the feeling of being completely trapped by someone who knew exactly which emotional buttons to push to get what they wanted. I'm going to bed. We'll discuss this tomorrow. Brad, I want you gone in the morning. I went upstairs, closing my bedroom door firmly behind me. I could hear them downstairs, their voices raised, arguing about something. I didn't care. I just wanted this day to end. But when I opened my bedroom door, I stopped dead. My room had been completely taken over. Emily's clothes were everywhere, hanging in my closet, draped over my chair, scattered across my bed. Her makeup covered my dresser. Brad's gaming equipment was set up on my antique writing desk, the one my grandmother had left me. There were energy drink cans on my nightstand. They'd moved into my bedroom. I felt something break inside me, not loudly, not dramatically, just a quiet snap like a rubber band stretched too far. I walked across the hall to the guest room, thinking I'd just sleep there and deal with this tomorrow. But the guest room was full of boxes and random junk. They'd turned it into a storage room. The only other option was my home office. I opened the door and felt my heart stop. The room was gutted, completely gutted. My father's bookshelf, the one he'd built by hand, was gone. My mother's jewelry box that had sat on the side table, gone. The photo albums, the boxes of memorabilia, the desk where I'd worked on my business plans, all of it gone. In its place was a complete streaming setup, professional lighting on stands, multiple monitors, a gaming chair, a microphone on a boom arm, Brad's posters on the wall. It looked like a Best Buy had exploded in there. I walked back downstairs. Emily and Brad were in the kitchen making sandwiches like nothing had happened. Where is everything? My voice sounded strange to my own ears, too calm, too quiet. Brad looked up from his sandwich. Everything what? My office, all the stuff that was in there, my parents' things. Where are they? Oh, that room. Yeah, I needed a proper streaming setup. Emily said it was mostly old stuff that you never used anyway. Some of it's in the garage. The rest I'm not really sure. I think we donated it. You donated my parents' belongings. Sarah, it was just old books and Emily said, exasperated. You hadn't touched that stuff in years. You always said you were going to sort through it, but you never did. Brad needed the space for his career. His streaming is really taking off. He's almost at 500 followers. 500 followers. He'd thrown away my parents' belongings for 500 followers. Some of that was irreplaceable. My mother's jewelry, my father's books, photos. It's in the garage. Probably. I mean, most of it. Sarah, you're being dramatic. It's just stuff. Emily took a bite of her sandwich, supremely unconcerned. I didn't respond. I couldn't. If I opened my mouth, I was either going to scream or cry or both, and I refused to give them that satisfaction. I went out to the garage. In the corner, shoved behind some old paint cans and garden tools, I found 3 boxes. 3 boxes out of the dozens that had been in that room. I opened them with shaking hands. Random books, some papers, a few photos. None of the important things. Not my mother's jewelry box. Not my father's handwritten journals. Not the photo albums from my childhood. They were gone, donated to Goodwill or thrown in the trash. Irreplaceable pieces of my history treated like garbage. I sat on the cold garage floor and tried to process what had just happened. How had I let it get this far? How had I gone from letting my sister stay for 2 weeks to this, to being locked out of my own house, my belongings thrown away, my space completely invaded? I thought about calling the police. But what would I say? My sister and her boyfriend took over my house. They changed the locks. I'd let Emily stay here. I'd given her a key. She was family. It would be her word against mine, and knowing Emily, she'd cry and play the victim and make me look like a monster. I pulled out my phone and Googled how to evict family member in Washington state. The results were depressing. 30-day notice, formal eviction process, potentially months of legal battles. All while they continued living in my house, continuing to destroy my things, continuing to take advantage. There had to be another way. I went back inside. It was after midnight now. Emily and Brad had gone to bed. In my bed, in my room, I slept on the couch. My own couch covered in stains from their party in my own house like a guest. The next morning, I woke up early to sounds coming from upstairs. Brad's voice talking to someone. I crept halfway up the stairs, listening. Dude, I'm telling you, this is going to work perfectly. Emily's sister is loaded and she's a total pushover. I've already got her letting us stay here indefinitely. There was a pause. He was on the phone. No, man, she's too guilty to kick us out. Emily knows exactly how to play her. All that mom and dad would want you to take care of me stuff. Works every time. He laughed. The goal is to get my name on the deed. Once I'm legally an owner, she can't kick me out even if she wanted to. I've been researching Washington state property law. If you establish residency and can prove you contributed to the household, you can claim partial ownership. This house is worth at least $1.5 million, probably closer to 2. My blood turned to ice. Here's the best part. Emily doesn't even know I'm playing her too. She actually thinks I love her. Once I've got partial ownership secured, I'll probably dump her and force a sale. Or maybe I'll string her along long enough to get her to sign over her potential inheritance or something. Either way, I'm walking away with a chunk of change. I heard movement. I quickly backed down the stairs and went into the kitchen, my heart pounding so hard I thought it might bruise my ribs. Brad came down 5 minutes later, all smiles. Morning, Sarah. Hey, I wanted to apologize about last night. Things got a little out of hand. Emily and I were thinking we could all sit down and talk about a more permanent arrangement. You know, work out some kind of agreement. Agreement? Yeah, like maybe we could help with utilities and stuff in exchange for staying here long term. Emily really loves it here. She feels safe here, with family. The way he emphasized family made my skin crawl. "I'll think about it," I managed to say. After Brad left for his delivery shift, Emily came downstairs. I tried to look at her the way I used to as my little sister, the person I'd spent my whole life protecting. But all I could see now was a stranger wearing my sister's face. "And we need to talk. If this is about this party again," I said I was sorry. "It's about the whole situation. You and Brad have been here almost 2 months now. You said it would be 2 weeks. My bedroom has been taken over. My office has been destroyed. My parents' belongings are gone. This has gone way too far." Emily's face immediately crumpled. "I knew it. I knew you were going to kick me out. You can't stand to see me happy for once in my life. That's not what this is about." "Then what is it about, Sarah? You have this huge house. You're never even here. And the one time I need help, the one time I need my sister, you're going to throw me out on the street. Is that it?" "I'm not throwing you out. I'm asking you to find your own place. There's a difference. Where am I supposed to go? I can't afford first month's rent and deposit anywhere decent. I'm barely getting by as it is. Maybe Brad could help you. If you guys are so serious, maybe you could get a place together. Brad's saving up for his streaming equipment. He can't afford to help right now. Sarah, please, just give me a little more time. 3 months, that's all I need. 3 months to save up enough money to get out of your hair. 3 months. 90 more days of this. 90 more days of Brad's plan to steal my house. 90 more days of watching them take over every inch of my space. 1 month, I heard myself say. You have 1 month to find a place and move out. And Brad cannot be here anymore. He needs to find somewhere else to stay. That's not fair. Brad doesn't have anywhere else to go. His roommates kicked him out. That's not my problem, Emily. 1 month. You can stay, he cannot. That's the deal. Emily stood up, her face red with anger. Fine, fine, we'll be out of your precious house. But don't come crying to me when you end up old and alone with nobody who gives a damn about you. This is why you don't have any friends, Sarah. This is why you're always alone. Because you care more about your things than about people. She stormed upstairs. I heard the bedroom door slam. My bedroom door. I sat there at my kitchen table, my hands shaking, and realized something. I couldn't do this for another month. I couldn't watch them systematically destroy my home and my peace of mind for another 30 days. I couldn't watch Brad execute his plan to steal my house. I couldn't watch Emily manipulate me with guilt while treating me like garbage. I needed a different plan. I pulled out my phone and scrolled through my contacts until I found the name I was looking for. Richard Vance. We'd met at a tech industry networking event about a year ago. He was a real estate attorney, the kind of guy other lawyers warned their clients about. Aggressive, ruthless, efficient. We'd exchanged business cards, talked about the market, and he told me if I ever needed anything to give him a call. It was Saturday morning. I didn't expect him to answer, but he picked up on the second ring. Sarah Chen, I was wondering when you'd call. Richard, I need help. I have a situation. Tell me everything. So I did. I told him about Emily moving in, about Brad, about the party, about the changed locks, about my parents' belongings being thrown away. And then I told him about the phone call I'd overheard, about Brad's plan to claim partial ownership, about the research he'd done into Washington state property law. When I finished, there was a long silence. Sarah, I'm going to ask you a question, and I need you to answer honestly. How far are you willing to go to fix this? What do you mean? I mean, are you willing to completely burn this bridge? Because what I'm thinking, there's no coming back from it. Your sister will never forgive you. Your extended family will probably take her side. People will call you heartless, but it will be legal, it will be final, and it will send a message that nobody takes advantage of Sarah Chen. I thought about my mother's jewelry box, probably sitting in a donation bin somewhere. I thought about my father's journals thrown away like trash. I thought about Brad's laugh when he talked about how easy I was to manipulate. I thought about Emily's face when she told me I'd end up old and alone. Tell me what you're thinking. You're going to sell the house. Not to a regular buyer, not on the open market. You're going to sell to an investment company I work with. They specialize in fast cash purchases for property flips. They buy as is close in 72 hours, and they don't negotiate with squatters. When they take possession, they bring private security, not police, and they're very efficient at clearing properties. Can we really do that in 3 days? Sarah, with cash buyers, I can do it in 48 hours if you're motivated. The company I'm thinking of pays about 10% below market value, but you get cash immediately and you never have to deal with Emily or Brad again. They become someone else's problem, someone who doesn't care about family drama or guilt trips. What about Emily? Where will she go? Honestly, not your problem anymore. She's an adult. She made her choices. You've been supporting her for years, and she's repaid you by letting her boyfriend plot to steal your house. You don't owe her anything. She's my sister, and she's been using that against you for years from what you've told me. Sarah, I've seen situations like this before. They don't get better. They escalate. Brad's already researching adverse possession laws. In 6 more months, he might actually have a legal claim if you don't act now. And Emily's going to keep guilting you. Keep pushing boundaries. Keep taking until there's nothing left of you. I thought about that. About 6 months from now, still trapped in this situation. About Brad successfully getting his name on my deed. About Emily continuing to treat my home like her personal playground. Do it. Set it up. Smart decision. I'll have preliminary paperwork ready by Monday morning. Can you come to my office? I'll be there at 9. Perfect. In the meantime, act normal. Don't tip them off. Don't get into any more arguments. Just be the pushover they think you are. I hung up and sat there for a long moment staring at my phone. What I was about to do was nuclear. There would be no going back. But as I looked around my kitchen at the beer bottles still scattered on the counter, at the wine stain on my white cabinets, I realized I'd already lost my sister. The Emily I'd grown up with, the one I'd protected and provided for. She was already gone. This person using my guilt and my love as weapons. She was a stranger. The rest of that weekend, I played the part perfectly. I apologized to Emily for being harsh. I told her I was just stressed from work and that she could stay as long as she needed. I even told Brad he could stay too, that I'd overreacted. The relief on both their faces would have been comical if it wasn't so infuriating. I knew you'd come around, Emily said, hugging me. You're such a good sister. I'm so lucky to have you. Brad just nodded, that smug smile on his face. He thought he'd won. That night they went out to celebrate. I heard them talking about it, about how I'd finally gotten with the program. Once they were gone, I started carefully packing. Not everything that would be too obvious, just the important things. My laptop with all my work files, the few boxes from the garage that contained what remained of my parents' belongings, my grandmother's quilt, my important documents, my passport, my birth certificate. I loaded them into my car and drove to a storage unit I'd rented that afternoon, paid for 6 months in advance with cash. When Emily and Brad came home that night, drunk and happy, I was sitting on the couch watching Netflix, like nothing had changed. Monday morning, I told them I had a week of intensive meetings at work and would basically be living at the office. This wasn't unusual. I'd done it before during product launches. They barely reacted, already making plans for what they'd do with the house to themselves all week. I met Richard at his office at 9 a.m. sharp. He had the paperwork ready. The investment company was called Cascade Property Holdings. They specialized in distressed properties, foreclosures, and fast flips. Their offer was $1.8 million cash, closing in 3 business days. It was about $200,000 below what I could probably get on the open market, but I didn't care. This wasn't about money. One thing you need to understand, Richard said as I signed page after page. Once the sale closes, possession transfers immediately. The new owners have the legal right to enter the property and remove any occupants. Your sister and her boyfriend will have about 30 minutes to gather their belongings and leave. If they refuse, the security team will call the police and they'll be arrested for trespassing. I understand. You won't be there when this happens. In fact, I'd recommend you be far away. Maybe take a vacation. Let the dust settle. I'm thinking Hawaii. He smiled. Perfect. Sign here. The sale was set to close on Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. That gave me exactly 3 days to prepare. 3 days to make sure everything I cared about was out of the house. 3 days to set the stage for what was coming. I spent Monday evening at the house, continuing my performance. I made dinner for Emily and Brad, listened to Brad talk about his streaming dreams, watched Emily scroll through apartment listings that she never actually contacted. I went to bed early, claiming exhaustion. Tuesday, I started moving more things out. I told Emily I was taking some stuff to storage to declutter and make more space for them. She was thrilled. She even helped me load boxes into my car, boxes full of my clothes, my books, my personal items. She had no idea she was helping me move out of my own house. This is so great, Sarah, she said, watching me pack. The house is going to feel so much more open. Brad and I really appreciate you doing this for us. Anything for family, I said, and I meant it in a way she'd understand too late. Wednesday, I told them I had to go out of town for work. Last-minute trip to meet with a client in San Francisco. I'd be gone until Monday. I watched Emily's eyes light up. So we'll have the place to ourselves for a week. Looks like it, but please keep it reasonable. No massive parties like last time. Of course not, we learned our lesson. Just us and maybe a couple of friends over for a movie night. Nothing crazy. I already knew there would be another party. Probably multiple parties. They couldn't help themselves. I hugged Emily goodbye. She felt so small in my arms, like she did when she was little, and I'd protect her from thunderstorms. I felt a moment of doubt of guilt. But then Brad came up behind her, his hand possessively on her shoulder, and I remembered his voice on that phone call. How he'd laughed about manipulating us both. Have a safe trip, Sarah. Don't worry about anything here. I'm sure he meant that as reassurance. Instead, it sounded like a threat. I drove straight to the airport and caught a flight to Maui. As the plane took off, I turned off my phone and tried not to think about what was going to happen in less than 24 hours. The resort I'd booked was beautiful. Right on the beach, ocean view room, infinity pool. I'd paid extra for a last-minute booking, but I didn't care. I needed to be as far away from Seattle as possible when this went down. Thursday morning, Hawaii time, was Tuesday afternoon back home. I sat on the beach, Mai Tai in hand, watching the waves. My phone was off. I couldn't bear to turn it on yet. The sale should have closed by now. The security team should be on their way to the property. I tried to imagine what Emily and Brad were doing, probably celebrating their week alone. Maybe Brad was streaming, showing off his house to his followers. Maybe Emily was rearranging more of my furniture, making plans for how they'd renovate once they'd convinced me to sign over partial ownership. At 3 p.m. Hawaii time, 6 p.m. in Seattle, I finally turned on my phone. The messages started flooding in immediately. 17 missed calls from Emily, 23 text messages, voicemails, texts from numbers I didn't recognize, probably Brad calling from different phones. The first texts from Emily were confused. Sarah, there are some men here saying they own the house. This is really weird. Can you call me? Then they got more panicked. Sarah, these guys have papers and they're saying we have to leave. Where are you? Call me back right now. Then angry, Sarah, what the fuck did you do? And finally desperate. Please, Sarah, please call me back. They're making us leave. They're going to call the police. Please, please, please. There were videos too. Emily must have been recording. I opened one with shaking hands. The video showed my living room. 3 men in suits, professional, calm. Behind them, I could see a security guard. One of the suited men was holding papers, speaking in a firm but not unkind voice. As I've explained, that the property was sold. The deed transferred this morning. You're currently trespassing. You have 30 minutes to gather your belongings and vacate the premises. If you refuse, we'll have no choice but to involve law enforcement. The camera swung to show Brad, his face red with rage. This is bullshit. We live here. You can't just kick us out. Sir, you're not on the lease. You have no legal claim to this property. The previous owner, Sarah Chen, sold the house to Cascade Property Holdings. We are the new owners. You need to leave. Where the fuck is Sarah? That was Emily's voice, shrill with panic. She wouldn't do this. This is a mistake. Ma'am, I assure you there's no mistake. Here's the recorded deed. Here's the court order for immediate possession. We can do this the easy way or the hard way, but either way, you're leaving this property today. The video ended. I watched 2 more. In one, Brad was on the phone, probably calling a lawyer or the police, yelling about squatters' rights and illegal eviction. In another, Emily was sobbing while hastily throwing clothes into garbage bags, the security guard watching impassively. The final video was from outside. It showed the front lawn of my house covered in boxes and bags of belongings. Emily and Brad's stuff unceremoniously dumped on the grass. Neighbors were watching from their yards, whispering to each other. I recognized Mrs. Patterson from next door, her arms crossed, looking satisfied. She'd complained about Brad's loud gaming sessions multiple times. In the video, Emily was sitting on the curb, her face in her hands, sobbing. Brad was pacing, phone to his ear, shouting at someone. And then a car pulled up, a beat-up Honda. Some friend of theirs, probably coming to rescue them. I closed the videos. My hands were shaking. Part of me felt victorious, but another part, a bigger part, felt sick. That was my sister sitting on that curb crying. That was my baby sister, the one I'd promised to protect, being thrown out with her belongings scattered on the lawn like garbage. But then I remembered. I remembered my mother's jewelry box thrown away like it meant nothing. I remembered Brad's laugh, his casual cruelty when he talked about conning me. I remembered Emily telling me I'd die old and alone because I cared more about things than people. I'd cared about people, I'd cared about her, and she'd repaid that care by letting her boyfriend try to steal my house. Finally, at 5:47 p.m., I answered one of Emily's many calls. Sarah, oh my God, finally. What is happening? These men are here. They say they own the house. They're making us leave right now. They're throwing all our stuff on the lawn. The neighbors are watching. This is humiliating. You have to help us. I could hear Brad yelling in the background. I could hear other voices, firm and professional, probably the security team. I could hear Emily crying, real crying this time, not the manipulative kind. What house are you talking about, Em? I kept my voice calm, took a sip of my drink. Your house, our house, the house you gave us. These men are saying they bought it, but that's impossible. You didn't sell it, you gave it to us. Oh, that house. Well, technically I never gave it to you. I sold it. On Tuesday morning, closed for $1.8 million cash sale. The new owners took possession this afternoon. The silence on the other end was complete. I could hear the waves, the seagulls, the sounds of paradise. And then Emily's voice came back small and broken. You sold it, but you said, you gave me the keys. You said we could have it. I gave you a set of old keys, Em, as a symbolic gesture. I never signed anything over to you. I never put your name on the deed. I simply sold my property to a buyer who wanted immediate possession. It's done. The deed is recorded. You're standing in someone else's house now, and I suggest you leave before they really do call the police. But where are we supposed to go, Sarah? All our stuff is here. Brad quit his job. We have nowhere to go. You'll figure it out. You're resourceful. Brad certainly thought he was smart enough to steal a house from me. I'm sure he can figure out where to sleep tonight. What are you talking about? Brad wasn't trying to steal anything. We were family. Emily, I heard him on the phone with his friend talking about how he was going to get his name on the deed, how I was an easy mark, how you were so desperate for my approval that you'd manipulate me into signing over partial ownership. He called me an idiot. He said once he had partial ownership, he'd probably dump you and force a sale. Another long silence. You're lying. I ask him. Ask Brad why he really wanted to live in my house. Ask him about his plan, but ask him somewhere else because you need to leave the property now. I can literally hear the security guard telling you that in the background. Sarah, please, I'm your sister. We're all each other has. You can't do this to me. Mom and Dad would be so disappointed in you. And there it was, the final manipulation, the last guilt trip. For a second, just a second, I almost felt bad. But then I remembered Brad laughing about conning me. I remembered my mother's jewelry box in a donation bin somewhere. I remembered being locked out of my own house. No, Em. Mom and Dad would be disappointed in you. They raised you to be better than this. They taught you to be independent, to work hard, to treat people with respect. Instead, you let your boyfriend convince you to con your own sister. You threw away their belongings like they were garbage. You took over my home and acted like I was the problem for wanting boundaries. This isn't about me being cruel. This is about you learning that actions have consequences. I hate you. Her voice was pure venom now. I will never forgive you for this. You're dead to me. That's fair. I hope you find a place to stay tonight. Goodbye, Emily. I hung up. Immediately blocked her number, blocked Brad's number, blocked them both on every social media platform. I sat there for a moment waiting to feel guilty, waiting for the regret to hit me. It didn't come. Instead, I felt light. Lighter than I'd felt in months, maybe years. My phone buzzed. A text from Richard Vance. Property cleared without incident. Subjects removed all personal belongings. Security team reports no damage to property during exit. New owners taking possession now. Nice doing business with you. I sent back thank you for everything. Then I turned off my phone, ordered another Mai Tai, and watched the sunset over the Pacific Ocean. The next few days in Maui were surreal. I'd wake up expecting to feel the weight of guilt crushing me, but it never came. Instead, I felt free. I went snorkeling, took a helicopter tour, ate fresh poke, and drank too many tropical drinks. I let myself just exist without the constant worry about what Emily needed, what crisis I'd have to solve next, what manipulation I'd have to see through. On the third day, I turned my phone on briefly to check work emails. There were messages from people I barely knew, distant cousins, friends of Emily's, even our aunt from Portland, Mom's sister, who I hadn't spoken to in over a year. The messages followed a pattern. Emily had crafted her narrative. I was the evil sister who'd kicked her out over nothing. I was cruel, heartless, ungrateful. She'd been trying to help me to make the house feel lived in and safe while I was always gone for work. And I'd repaid her kindness by selling the house out from under her without warning. Some messages were gentle, asking for my side of the story. Others were accusatory. One cousin called me a disgrace to the family. Aunt Marie left a voicemail saying Mom would be ashamed of me. I deleted them all. I didn't owe anyone an explanation. The people who truly knew me would ask before judging. Everyone else could believe whatever version of events made them comfortable. I did, however, save the recording I'd made on my phone that day. The recording of Brad's conversation about conning me, just in case. When I got back to Seattle the following Monday, I went straight to my storage unit. Everything I cared about was there, safe and organized. I'd already put an offer on a penthouse condo downtown, a sleek, modern place with floor-to-ceiling windows and a view of Puget Sound. No yard for anyone to dump their belongings on, no guest rooms for people to overstay their welcome in, and most importantly, a building with a doorman and security, so nobody could change the locks on me ever again. The condo was smaller than the house, but I didn't need all that space. I'd bought the house thinking I'd fill it with family dinners and holidays with nieces and nephews running through the rooms. But that future was never going to happen. Emily had made sure of that. I heard through the neighborhood gossip chain that Cascade Property Holdings had already started renovating the house. They were doing a complete gut job, updating everything, planning to flip it within 6 months for a substantial profit. Good for them. I hoped the next family who bought it would be happy there, happier than I'd been in those final months. About 2 weeks after I got back, I ran into Mrs. Patterson at the grocery store. She recognized me immediately. "Sarah, I've been hoping to see you. I just wanted to say we were all very relieved when your sister and her boyfriend finally left. The parties, the noise, the way they treated your beautiful home. It was hard to watch. Why didn't anyone tell me?" "Well, dear, she was your sister. We didn't want to cause family drama. But I'm glad you sorted it out. That young man was trouble, anyone could see that. If only someone had told me. But then again, would I have listened? Probably not. I'd been so blinded by guilt and family obligation that I wouldn't have believed them anyway." 3 weeks after Hawaii, I was settling into my new condo when my phone rang from an unknown number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. "Sarah, it's Emily." My first instinct was to hang up, but curiosity kept me on the line. "How did you get this number?" "I called your work, told them it was an emergency. Sarah, I need to talk to you. We don't have anything to talk about. Please, just 5 minutes. I'm at a coffee shop near your office. The Starbucks on 5th. Can you meet me, please?" Against my better judgment, I agreed. Maybe I needed closure. Maybe I wanted to see if she'd actually apologize. Maybe I was still, despite everything, hoping for my sister to come back. She was sitting at a corner table when I arrived, looking smaller than I remembered. Thinner. She had dark circles under her eyes and her clothes looked worn. When she saw me, she didn't smile. "Thank you for coming." I sat down across from her, keeping my distance. "You have 5 minutes. I wanted you to know that you were right, about Brad. About everything." Her voice was shaky. "After we got kicked out, we stayed with his friend Mike for a few days. I overheard Brad on the phone with his brother. He was laughing about how close he'd come to getting a piece of the house. He said I was useful but getting clingy, and once he was done with his Seattle play, he was heading to Austin anyway. I didn't say anything, just waited. I confronted him. He didn't even try to deny it. He said I should have seen it coming, that anyone stupid enough to fall for his act deserved what they got. Then he left. Just packed his stuff and left. Took my car, actually, the one you co-signed for, totaled it in Austin and never paid the insurance. So now I'm stuck with a loan for a car that doesn't exist. Emily, I'm not asking for money or help. I'm not asking for anything. I just wanted you to know that you were right and I was an idiot. I let him manipulate me. I helped him try to manipulate you. I threw away Mom and Dad's stuff because he said it was cluttering up our space. I convinced myself that you owed me something because I was struggling and you were successful. I turned into a person Mom and Dad would be ashamed of." She was crying now, quiet tears running down her face. "I don't expect you to forgive me. I wouldn't forgive me either. But I needed to say I'm sorry. I'm sorry for all of it. For the parties, for changing the locks, for letting Brad destroy your things, for using Mom and Dad's memory as a weapon against you. You were just trying to help me, and I repaid you by being the worst version of myself." I sat there looking at my sister, really seeing her for the first time in months. She looked broken, genuinely broken, not the performative kind she'd perfected over the years. "What are you doing now?" "Working at a restaurant in Capitol Hill, waiting tables. I have a studio apartment. It's tiny and kind of gross, but it's mine. I'm paying for it myself. No help from anyone. I'm also going to therapy, trying to figure out why I let myself become so entitled, so manipulative. Why I thought the world owed me something just because life was hard." "That's good, Em, really. I saw your engagement announcement on LinkedIn. Congratulations." I'd forgotten I'd posted that. Michael and I had gotten engaged the month before, a quiet proposal during a weekend trip to Victoria. He was kind, stable, had his own successful career and his own condo. We were planning a small wedding, just close friends. No family because I didn't have any anymore. Thank you. I don't expect an invitation. I know I burned that bridge, but I'm happy for you. You deserve someone who treats you well. We sat in silence for a moment. Finally, Emily stood up. I should go. My shift starts in an hour. Thank you for meeting me. And Sarah, I really am sorry. I know it doesn't change anything, but I needed you to hear it. She left before I could respond. I sat there for a long time, staring at my coffee, processing what had just happened. Did it change anything? Did her apology make what she'd done okay? No. Absolutely not. But it did give me something I hadn't realized. I needed confirmation that I'd made the right choice. That walking away from a toxic situation, even when it meant walking away from family, was sometimes the only option. I never saw Emily again after that day. I heard she kept working at the restaurant, eventually worked her way up to management. I heard she started dating someone new, someone stable with a real job. I heard she got her life together slowly but surely. We never reconciled. Some relationships once broken can't be repaired. The trust was too shattered, the hurt too deep. But I'd made peace with that. I'd stopped waiting for the guilt to consume me, stopped expecting to wake up one day regretting what I'd done. Instead, I woke up every day in my beautiful condo, next to a man who loved and respected me, in a life I'd built on my own terms. I had boundaries now, real ones. I'd learned that saying no wasn't selfish, it was self-preservation. I'd learned that family wasn't an excuse for abuse, and love shouldn't come with the cost of my own well-being. Michael and I got married in a small ceremony at a winery in Woodinville. 50 guests, all people who genuinely cared about us. No drama, no manipulation, no family members who thought they were entitled to things they hadn't earned. Just love, support, and celebration. At the reception, one of Michael's cousins asked me if I had any siblings. I thought about how to answer that. The truth was complicated. The easy answer was simpler. I had a sister once, I said. But we grew apart. It wasn't a lie. The sister I'd grown up with, the one I'd loved and protected and tried to help, she was gone. Maybe she'd never really existed. Maybe I just projected my hopes onto someone who was never capable of being the person I wanted her to be. A year after the wedding, I got a card in the mail. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. Inside was a simple note. Congratulations on your marriage. I hope you're happy. You deserve it. E. I put the card in a drawer and didn't respond. Some doors once closed should stay that way. These days, when people ask me about family, I tell them about Michael's family. His warm, chaotic, loving family who welcomed me with open arms. I tell them about the family I've built with friends who've proven themselves trustworthy. I don't mention Emily. That chapter of my life is closed. Do I sometimes wonder what would have happened if I'd handled things differently, Kerr? But then I remember Brad's laugh. I remember Emily's face when she told me I'd die alone. I remember my mother's jewelry box lost forever because someone thought their streaming career was more important. And I remember the feeling of sitting on that beach in Maui, phone full of angry messages, Mai Tai in hand, finally free from the weight of expectations that were crushing me. That feeling of liberation, of choosing myself for once, of refusing to be a doormat any longer. That's what I hold on to. Some bridges are meant to burn. Sometimes the only way to save yourself is to walk away from people who are determined to drag you down. And sometimes the kindest thing you can do for someone is to stop enabling them and let them face the consequences of their own choices. Emily might hate me forever. Brad probably tells the story at parties about the crazy woman who sold her house out from under him. People who only heard their side probably think I'm a monster. But I know the truth, and that's enough. So here's my question for you. Have you ever had to cut ties with someone you loved because the relationship became toxic? How do you deal with the guilt, the judgment from others, the voice in your head that says you should have tried harder, done more, been better? At what point do you stop sacrificing yourself on the altar of other people's dysfunction? If this story resonated with you, if you've ever been the person everyone takes for granted, until you finally say enough, hit that like button. Subscribe if you want to hear more stories about people who stopped being doormats and started being their own heroes. And please drop a comment below sharing your own experience or what you would have done in my situation. Sometimes we need to hear that we're not alone, that choosing ourselves doesn't make us selfish, it makes us survivors. Your story might be exactly what someone else needs to hear today.